Hello, English learners. Welcome back to another episode of the podcast where we help you boost your English skills and get closer to fluency. I'm Stacy, and today, we're going to talk about a topic that can transform the way you speak English, thinking in English. It's one of the most powerful ways to improve your fluency, sound more natural, and speak with confidence. If you're tired of translating everything in your head before speaking, then this episode is for you. We're going to explore why thinking in English is so important, how to train your brain to do it, and some practical exercises to help you get started. So, sit back, grab a cup of coffee or tea, and let's dive in. First, let's talk about why thinking in English is such a big deal. When you think in your native language and then translate into English, it slows you down. Your brain has to do extra work because you're processing the information twice, once in your language and then again in English. This can cause you to stumble over words, struggle with grammar, or even get stuck because you're not sure how to translate a certain expression. On the other hand, when you think directly in English, you can form sentences more quickly and naturally. It also helps you develop a better understanding of how the language works because you're using English itself to communicate, rather than relying on your native language as a crutch. But how do you train your brain to think in English? It's not something that happens overnight, but with consistent practice, you can definitely do it. Here are some techniques to help you make that switch. 1. Start with simple words and phrases. If you're not used to thinking in English, don't try to think in full sentences right away. Instead, start by using simple words and phrases for everyday objects and actions. For example, when you see a cup of coffee, instead of thinking coffee in your native language, think coffee in English. When you're getting ready for bed, think about each action in English, like brush teeth, turn off the lights, or set the alarm. This may seem like a small step, but it's a powerful way to get your brain used to processing English as your first response. 2. Narrate your day in English. Once you're comfortable with simple words, try narrating your daily activities in English, either in your mind or out loud. As you go about your day, describe what you're doing. For example, I'm cooking breakfast. I'm adding some eggs to the pan. Now I'm making toast. You don't need to narrate everything. You can choose moments when you're alone or have a little free time. This exercise helps you practice thinking in full sentences and makes English a more natural part of your thought process. 3. Use English to solve problems. Another great way to practice thinking in English is by using it to solve problems or make plans. For instance, if you're trying to figure out what to cook for dinner, do it in English. Think about the ingredients you have, the recipe steps, and the time it will take. This forces you to think through a situation entirely in English, which strengthens your ability to use the language for practical tasks. The more often you do this, the less you'll need to rely on your native language. Exercise 2. Timed journaling in English. Set a timer for 5 to 10 minutes and write about your day, your plans, or your thoughts in English. Don't worry about making mistakes. The goal is to keep your pen moving or your fingers typing. This practice helps you organize your thoughts in English and gradually makes it easier to think in the language. Exercise 3. Use English for inner dialogue. You know that voice inside your head? The one that talks to you while you're daydreaming or making decisions? Try switching that inner voice to English. If you're trying to decide between two different items at a store, think about the pros and cons in English. This is a powerful way to incorporate English into your daily life because you're using it to make decisions and process information just like you would in your native language. Exercise 4. Debate with yourself in English. Pick a simple topic, like cats are better than dogs or is it better to exercise in the morning or at night? And argue both sides of the debate in English. This exercise forces you to think quickly, come up with arguments, and express them in English. It's also a great way to practice vocabulary related to different topics. Exercise 5. Practice mindfulness in English. If you meditate or practice mindfulness, try doing it in English. Use English words to guide your breathing or focus your attention. For example, think to yourself, breathe in, breathe out, or focus on the present moment. This connects English with a calming, meditative state, making it feel more natural to think in the language. Now, let's discuss some common challenges you might face when trying to think in English and how to overcome them. Challenge 1. It feels unnatural at first. When you start thinking in English, it might feel strange or uncomfortable. This is completely normal. Remember that you're training your brain to do something new, and it will take time to get used to it. Start with small steps, like using simple words or narrating your actions, and gradually build up to thinking in full sentences. Challenge 2. Limited vocabulary. You may feel like you don't have enough words to express your thoughts in English. The key is not to get frustrated. If you can't think of a specific word, describe it in other ways. For example, if you can't remember the word microwave, you can say the machine used to heat food quickly. This practice actually helps expand your vocabulary because it forces you to use different ways to express yourself. Challenge 3. Switching back to your native language. You might find yourself slipping back into your native language out of habit. If this happens, don't worry. Just gently remind yourself to switch back to English. The more often you catch yourself and switch back, the easier it will become. Challenge 4. Fear of making mistakes. Many learners worry about thinking in English incorrectly, but remember, no one else can hear your thoughts. This is a safe space to make mistakes. In fact, making mistakes is a good sign because it means you're pushing your limits and learning. To wrap up, let's quickly review what we covered today. Start with simple words and phrases. Narrate your day in English. Use English to solve problems and make plans. Practice mental translation from English to meaning. Learn and use English idioms. Set reminders to think in English. Incorporate practical exercises like picture description, journaling, and debates. Remember, thinking in English is a gradual process. Be patient with yourself and practice consistently. It's one of the most rewarding skills you can develop as an English learner, and it will bring you closer to fluency than you might have thought possible. Thank you so much for listening today. If you found this episode helpful, please share it with a friend who's also learning English. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Keep practicing, keep pushing your limits, and most importantly, keep enjoying the process of learning. Catch you in the next episode. Take care, and happy learning!